All right, good afternoon. Took advantage of the holidays to let the reinforcement learning system run. Last time, if you remember, we left off. One of the people who had completed the game had given us his code repo to try and run it because we had some other issues with the puffer lib. Where essentially I let it run. I let it run for 4 days on that one before, and every evening it would essentially run out of memory overnight because some memory was getting not fully getting released as it was going through the iterations. And so it would get to about the 20-25 hour mark, and then it would crash out. You can see here, if I scroll up, that this has been running now for 137 hours. It's going a little bit slower now just because I have the stream running. I shouldn't say a little bit. It's going about half the speed it was before. While it was running, or while the stream is not running, I can get up to about 500, 530 steps per second across all the agents. So that's just how many steps all of, not them individually, but as a group, are completing. And we're almost at the 250 million mark here in terms of the steps. What's interesting is that it's gotten through 4 of the badges. It hasn't gotten the 5th badge yet. It also, where was it here? Had not figured out, where is it? Not Oaks Lab, that's the Team Rocket hideout either. Talking to the guy who built this repo out, typically it takes about 1 billion steps for it to complete a run. So you can imagine here now that we're like 1/4 of the way in, but we have, half the badges there, and then, the Elite 4 to run through as well. What was interesting is it made pretty quick progress to the first 4 badges. Let me find the log system here. Here it is. So pulling this up here, it's about 4,000 training epochs now. You'll see that here. The epoch that it's on is what's actually going to, is when it's going to do the write back and make the updates. I thought it was kind of interesting. If I can find it again quickly, there are a lot of variables here. Rock tunnel. Pretty quickly gets to actually getting cut and getting that. You can see here it has not found any real new locations on the map. There is some fluctuation here. That is because some of the steps or locations are removed just to keep it moving around. You can see here, basically by the 50th epoch, most of them had managed to beat Brock. And then none of them have gotten the Pokeflute yet, which is one of the ones that are needed. And then it's interesting that they keep shuffling the orders here. Here's Misty. About 150 epochs was when we got there. And then here is Helping Bill, not long after. Really, it's just kind of a straight shot, about 170 iterations. It did find Saffron and actually, encounter the guards there, but it did not go through here. And you can see here, it shuffled it again because there's Misty. But I was trying to find badge 4 in here. There's a rainbow badge. So right around about 11 training epochs was when we got there, or sorry, 1100. So we're a little over 3.5 more times to that benchmark here. And we haven't made progress as far as the badges go, but there has been some progress in terms of these. These are like the key events that happen in the game. So you can see Beat Misty, Beat Surge, working through. You can see it hasn't figured out the Safari Zone yet. It has not gotten the gold teeth here, and then rescued Mr. Fuji as well, which you then would get the Pokeflute from, if I remember right. Unfortunately, these aren't like in order, and you can see here, I'm not sure if it's just the scoring, but for some reason, these required items like the SS ticket is not as high as some of the others. So I'm just wondering if certain agents have missed some of the key points here. And then pulling this up, this side, pulling this up here. I'm filtering to just the users for me. They're all kind of in this palette and Viridian area right now. A fair amount of them, because you can progress further in Victory Road once you have a few badges. We're going here to capture the new exploration rewards that they could get. And then it started kind of looping back through areas, trying to find out any places basically that it had not explored before. I was hoping that at some point, because like I said, it got there pretty quickly. It's been running for almost 5 full days now. I was hoping that it would get to badge 5 at some point over the weekend, and it just had not seemed to get there. Another thing was it has not completed the Pokemon Tower. And then, where is it on the map? The Rocket Hideout is... That's Surge's Gym. It's the SSN, which it has completed the SSN. Where is it? Team Rocket Hideout. Over here. It just had not figured out how to get in here, get the items, and get a Face Giovanni there. So I was kind of surprised that we've been, I don't want to say stuck, because it is still making progress. And if you consider that it takes about 1 billion steps for theirs to run, where they have much more agents going, that we shouldn't be too far behind that, because I think I did 16 agents. 24 agents running. I only have 4 cores on this laptop, so that is part of the challenge here. It's just not getting enough, resources for this to actually complete the project in a reasonable time. They're running on servers which can take about 24 hours for theirs to complete their runs to get to that 1 billion steps, and you can see we're on day 5 with this laptop here, where it's just, we're talking, I mean, I know, like I said, we're streaming now, it's 280. If I go back to an earlier point today, let's see if it shows. You can see about 470. Even earlier, yeah, right in that 470 range. So we're getting about 60% of what we would be getting before. Let's pick back up a little bit, which is nice. But the challenge here is just that there's not been enough time for it to complete the run, but it is still making progress, just a bit slowly at the moment. I think there's a few things when I was reading through the code base that would be useful to take away. Looking for it here. One of the things that they do is they actually have infinite money turned on. Part of this is for the Safari Zone. Otherwise, you will quickly run out. Another setup that they have here in the configuration is that it is not, it won't encounter wild Pokemon until Indigo Road. The idea here is just that it kind of slows down the overall progress, but I think that was also part of what was stopping our original progress for the other version of the code, where we were just not able to get through Mount Moon with how many wild Pokemon were encountered along the way. So I do want to go look at the code on how that's actually implemented to see if that can be turned off for certain sections. So that way, for something like Mount Moon, if I can only put it on like one part of the map, then we still would encounter a few Pokemon. Kind of make our own grass patch essentially there. That way, they're not constantly fighting Pokemon the whole way through and having that happen. Because from the agent's perspective, it's really confusing when you get to Mount Moon. Before, there were defined squares on the ground, right? Those grass patches that would let you know that you could encounter wild Pokemon there. Then all of a sudden you get into Mount Moon and there's no indication that you're having wild Pokemon. Just that area is tougher as far as the agent's concerned, right? By going through, it tries to get as far as it can, it dies, and it decides, well, maybe I shouldn't be here after a couple iterations at it, and goes back. And so if I can figure out where that is here in the code, I'm going to lift it and put it back in the other repo, just for certain areas where I don't want to say it's unusual behavior, it's just not normal. So the caves in Pokemon all have that encounter area where instead of needing grass, it can appear anywhere within the caves, right? So you have Mount Moon here all throughout. Every step that you take in Mount Moon, there is a 4% chance that you encounter a Pokemon. And that makes it really challenging for the agent, because when it gets here, it basically rushes to Brock. It will defeat them. Even if you're doing this with your starter Pokemon, what ends up happening is that you get, like maybe a Wartortle if you're starting with Squirtle, and then an Ivysaur if you're starting with Bulbasaur, and really no other developed Pokemon. And then you can kind of control where you're encountering different Pokemon along the way here. And then all of a sudden now you're in an area where every step you take, there's a chance for Pokemon battle. Oh, and there's trainer battles here. So Mount Moon, I think, has 11 or 12 trainers inside of it, all with, I would say, fairly well-leveled Pokemon compared to just your starter here. If it's been at a couple iterations, you'll see that the starter is like at level 20 or 30, or getting closer to 30 towards like the end of Mount Moon. But that's still a big challenge, because having only one Pokemon means that you quickly run out of available attacks to get through it. So it will figure out like, oh, I've used Tackle and run out of moves, so I can't use it anymore. Because the dialogue's not progressing, so I'll select a different option, right? And then if it's Bulbasaur, you only have a couple uses of Vine Whip. I believe it's 11 or 10. And that's really it as far as your as far as the attacks that you have in the game, which presents a challenge for the AI, because it doesn't know really what to do after that. And you can see there's an agent here going right now. This is without any encounters, so it can kind of bump the corners all at once without hitting unexpected things. We know it's already been through here because it, defeated Misty and everything. That it's kind of free to explore here without getting heavily penalized in terms of actually having the agent fail and die. And so I want to figure out where that code is here, just to try and lift it. Because this has to come in somewhere in the code, this disable wild encounters. And then, like I said, the infinite money. So that way it can make sure that it has what it needs. So let's go here. Does config pass here? Yes. So no disable there. Maybe it's an environment. So it will take the list and disable them at the locations. Do I understand that correctly? If setup disable wild encounters. Interesting. Okay. So there's this, which goes through and disables the wild encounters at the locations there. So I'm guessing then that only at Indigo would it, only at Indigo Plateau would it not encounter Pokemon. Maybe I have it backwards. But based on what I'm reading, that's what I would expect. It looks like the agents aren't on the map at the moment. But the hope here is that we can get it lifted over to the other one, and then maybe we'll see progress through Mount Moon. So like I would disable it. It looks like based on the map ID. There they are. Oh, I see how they're doing it. Okay. Interesting. So what it's doing here is that it's essentially applying a repel, which means that you won't have any weak Pokemon encounters along the way, which is the majority of wild Pokemon. It means like special encounters will still happen. Things like the Snorlax, big map blockers or anything like that would still happen. So if it's in the list, then essentially it's going to say that there's a repel on you. And I'm not sure what this value would equate to, but it's going to make sure that you have make sure that you're not encountering any Pokemon then when this is happening. So interesting. So, and then if there's no wild encounters, they hard-coded the strength puzzle here in terms of where to go and move to do it. And it's going to disable the wild encounters while this happens to complete the puzzle, and then it's going to re-enable them. And then checks to see if there was a blackout. And then set the repel steps to 1, basically. Or maybe that's 0 in binary, or in the bitmap. Interesting. Okay, so it has like hooks in for where to go to cut as well. Enable this wild encounter. We're seeing more of it here. So if it's in the initial configuration to disable encounters, it's going to go through the list, make sure that it's unique by using a set. So that's a little bit of like a Python trick. You have a list, but then you make it a set. The set, because it's not, the order doesn't matter for it. It's just trying to find the specific instance. It's much faster computational wise to use the set instead of the list. And then work through that because you only want one instance of it being there anyway. And the order doesn't particularly matter in terms of what it's doing. And then if there is, so if it's a Boolean, it's on off. And as it encounters the maps, as it encounters the map locations, it will then add it to the list, is what I'm seeing here. And then if there is a list here, make sure its length is greater than 0. And then turn it into a dictionary as far as the maps go. Gotcha. So that's something that would be worthwhile to bring over. This is in their environment.py. So then on pull this up here. So I would want this, well, environments where they set it. You may as well have that same logic here. Is it called NVIDIA config? No, it's just config. And to make sure that it's consistent. I'm going to have to check this because I don't have map IDs. Need to add. So then adding this to config would be this baseline fast file. And let's see. So I want to keep this open. Where is that coming from? Puffer, then data, and map. I feel like map IDs should be here. Okay. And then here we'll go map. It says there's a global map. So this is a map location, but that's not the same as this. And okay. So they have maps for Mount Moon. To make it through there. So I can leverage that. This should be a list. So we've got right to do that right. 1F. E1F. And then Mount Moon. E2F. So then we will be able to hopefully progress further than we were before, and just make sure we can get through Mount Moon with only the trainer battles that will be there. So you can see here, that's pretty much able to just bump around as much as it wants until it gets through. And the idea here is that we can then transfer this over. I'm going to take this. Quite a list. Got that. And how do they implement this? So they okay. So it's just importing map IDs from here, which is this class. I'm going to need this as well. Oh, yeah, one instance going on. Okay. So I'm going to save this. Save this. I'm going to open those in the new window. So here. I want to go up to the top here. And I need the grids. What I do need is a new file. Oh, I didn't want to do it under that. And I want this to be I want to paste in what we have here from before. And from map. I guess look up. Then I want to look up map IDs. Right, yeah, that's map IDs. So then we now have disable wild encounters. I still need to create these. Right, so now we'll go back here. Oops. I want to be here. I want to go disable wild. We took that over. That part's fine. So what is this? It's Pyboy. Is Pyboy imported? Is that why? Yes. And this one is Pyboy. Yes. So then when I come here, I need to do the same thing, the same two parts. I need to make the hooks. So I can take this. There's the infinite money too. Our hook run. Here. Both of these. So go here. Updating the rewards. Where is these parts? Okay. So these are things that I added in from before. I'm going to drop this here, set up to disable the wild encounters, and then I also need to grab out this disable wild encounter hook. And the step. Where's step? I was going to here. So step. If disable all encounters, this is the, oops, I don't want that. I want, so is dead? No. Here. So if it dies, I'm back to here. I don't even want that in the logic here. I don't think it's necessary. Sorry, blackout. Yeah. It's just not something we're using. So that's disabling them, and then right here, this needs to go over when the die count is going to increment. So died. Because you will always be at a different location. Why is this throwing here? Just needs to catch up, I hope. Yeah, okay. So whenever you black out, you want to turn it to that there's like one step remaining. Maybe I need this, maybe I don't, so I want to keep this in mind. I need to come back. Hmm. So that's disabled. Wild encounters, and then I need to make sure it's here. So I don't have the hook, and that's what's missing here. So this is their disable wild encounters. And disable wild encounter hook. You know, let's just put the enable one there. I don't know if we'll need it, but at least we would have it should the error arise. Oh, I don't know how to do that. Here. Got it in. So then once we're ready to resume this, we can put any troublesome areas here. Not here. Here in this list for stopping the wild encounters when it happens so that we make progress there. So we just kind of lifted that over to the code base here. And that should be fine. So we have the map, the cities, routes, buildings, things like that. Each of them have their own map ID. We took the Mount Moon IDs and added them to our configuration so that way we can, once we shift back to using the main Pokemon Red experiments group, that hopefully we can progress through Mount Moon, as that had been one of the biggest blockers. And now looking through the code base, it seems like we can use that to our advantage. I know it's not the ideal situation for things, but at least if we do it this way, we can continue making progress as far as the agent learning. And then hopefully we can get a state where it can actually train Pokemon or go through Mount Moon with trained Pokemon. So this doesn't, I think, kill. You're still going to have, what is it, the like 11 encounters that are 11 or 12 encounters that are along the way there, and then trying to make it into Cerulean, which will already be challenging enough for the agent to learn here. I'd be really shocked if it did not start making more progress here this way. And then on Thursday, we can check in and see if we've made it to badge 5. I don't see the agents here on the map. But the hope here is that it can figure out, it's got a couple challenges here. There is what is this, Team Rocket hideout here to get through. And then it's got to go through the Pokemon Tower, which it had not completed, and then Saffron City after that. So it was able to get the badge here, which is great. But now it needs to make a little bit more progress. And then the key thing for it to progress after Saffron will be getting the the gold teeth that are here, so that way it can learn Surf. So I think this is pretty much it for today. We'll give it more time to progress. We're kind of taking some of the key we have wild encounters, and then we can port that over to the original baselines version, so that way hopefully it can progress and we can get more progress. So overall, it made it further than I certainly thought it would when I had set this up last. It obviously did what we hoped it would do, which was it could learn over the course of the whole weekend, the extended holiday weekend, to make significant progress. And we have seen that. It's gotten 4 badges. I can get this back up on the screen again. Let me close these out. There we go. Yeah, it's made more progress. We're at should be close to 250 now. There we go, 245 million steps in terms of its progress. You can see here we've slowed it down significantly just because I've been editing and running the stream while doing that. So we're down to like less than a third of progress as before. But we're gonna let this run for the next 2 days and see if we can get into where is it? Trying to get through the rocket hideout, as I think that is one of the on what's happening. I have been using, there is our reinforcement learning Discord, which I've been using to kind of provide updates, as the guy who provided us Ruko was curious if it would work in the lower compute environment, and I would say it has done well here. We have not crashed out. We've been running for over 5 days now, 5.5 days, and kind of really surprising, given that the original puffer lib that we had would make it about 24 hours. And I keep having that feeling that at some point we may run into that, but so far it's been holding up and pretty stable. And then once I kind of, in terms of SPS, how are our compute resources? They're decent enough that it can still handle it. Okay. So we haven't run out of resources yet. I hope to certainly keep it that way. And then when I stream again on Thursday, I'll go through and we'll provide updates. So I would expect it to be, we're making probably at the 350 million steps, 325, 350 million steps mark. So hopefully we will have more significant progress during that time that we'll have something to update. If not, then we will continue porting some of the Pokemon Red experiment that has, you know, the reset with however many steps that we're encountering along the way, and then seeing potentially if we can not have it reset as well and just kind of keep making progress. So that would be something else worthwhile to lift from here, where you give it a step target, it's going to go until it reaches those steps. Whereas the other version is you have a set amount of steps, and it can only run for that. So like I've been running at 400,000 steps on that. And you can see here, for it to make its progress, it would need about 600,000 steps if it were going straight from the beginning and trying to run through as quickly as it possibly could. You can see here, it's doing a lot of healing its Pokemon. Overall, we're just hoping for continued progress here going into Thursday, and then I will see you all then, and we'll have some updates. So for those of you that are here, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on Thursday.